Double Fries No Slaw. Richie, it's not official until we get on here and start to do a preview, but we are just a couple of days away from Florida State, Alabama. So let's preview this thing. We've talked about it a ton. We've talked about it all offseason. We have known this game was coming for a while. And honestly, after that Florida game, well, there were a few other things on my mind after that game. But quickly after that, started thinking about how Florida State would handle one of the more talented teams in the country coming in. Double Fries No Slaw brought to you by Guthrie's. You can visit all three locations, 1818 West Tennessee, 2550 North Monroe, and 2870 Appalachia Parkway. We appreciate them for their support. Of course, they will be out at the tailgate. Hey, if you're coming to the tailgate, a little tip, watch for the weather. I've heard some rumors that we may have to shift some things around due to the weather. So just keep an eye on your email if you sign up for tailgate tickets. We'll post on social media, do all those things too. Richie, just talked with you a couple of days ago. It feels weird to be back on here and doing this twice a week now, but This is what we do. But had a good week so far? Are you ready for this game yet?
Yeah, I had a great week. Had our annual accreditation survey at work today, and my department passed 100%, so I'm happy about that. So now I can actually focus towards the game and what's coming up this weekend. Lindsay and I are really excited that, for the longtime listeners, my wife is a huge Bama fan, so this is a fun game. 2017, not so fun at the end, and we'll get into what I think might happen at the end of the show. But this offseason does feel like it flied by. I don't know if it's because of CFB 26, the college football game coming back, or NFL preseason being somewhat interesting. I say that lightly, but it's the preseason. But it's football on TV. We had games last week. I cannot wait. I'm super pumped for the game on Saturday.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, listen, we'll get into the game here in a minute, but yeah, college football being back, games from Thursday to Monday. Like my wife's like, are you going to be home? What time on Sunday? And I was like, at least by 3 so that I can watch the college football game. So yeah, I it's the best time of the year. Obviously, we understand the road that's ahead on Saturday, but man, I don't know. I just spoke with CJ Wilson, who does Doak Talk, and I know he had a show right before this. Hopefully, a bunch of you guys watched that. But man, I really want to see how they look. To me, yes, the most important thing is winning and losing, but I just want to see how they look. It's been I feel like you talked about the offseason going fast. I'll say this and then we'll move on. But you talked about the offseason going fast. I agree with you on that. And I think it had something to do with, we had the video game, baseball made a nice run, softball in the super regional. Like there was some fun stuff that happened in Florida State's spring sports that went into the summer. And the rest of the summer just didn't feel like it was that long. Conversely, it feels like it's been like a year and a half off season, because I don't even know if I count last year as really getting to enjoy a football season. So man, I'm just ready to see a team that looks like they give a damn and goes out and plays hard. Obviously, I want to win too. We'll talk about how Florida State can maybe get that accomplished. Quickly though, we haven't talked about this a ton because it happened afterward, but were there any big surprises to you on the depth chart when it came out this week on Tuesday?
So I have it pulled up right here, right now. No surprise at quarterback. I guess I'm not overly surprised at Roy Dell getting the nod at running back. I know there's an or, but typically when someone's listed above them, they're going to start. Jalen Lucas being strictly a running back, they still may use him at receiver. We'll see. We'll talk about Landon Thomas later. He's listed as a or, basically third string right now. Deuce Squirrel, Javian Boggs, like it's the surprise. The one that I love that made the internet kind of go crazy was who was it? The
Donnie
Hybrid. Yeah, that one was interesting to me. But yeah, not a ton of surprises. I think it's about what we kind of thought it would be. I think if I had to pick one, it'd be Shaheem Brown not starting. He went from the hero of the LSU game in New Orleans to now being passed over by somebody else. So that if I had to pick one surprise for me, that would be it.
Yeah, so this will drop tomorrow, but I just chatted with CJ Wilson, and I did want to post a video right before we went live. But tomorrow morning, it'll come out. I chatted with CJ Wilson, and the reason I say that is this is his take. I'm not stealing his take. I'm giving him full credit for this. But asked about the mindset of the team, and I asked about, man, I don't care if they win. I mean, I do care if they win or lose. I just don't want to see people quit. They quit on Labor Day last year, right? It was week one wasn't even done yet, and they'd already quit. And so I want to see the mindset different. And what he said was, man, he didn't name any names, but you just did. And there's others on the offense too. There are guys that have been not benched, but they're not just starting based on their name or their star ranking or anything like that anymore. I do think if there's one confidence that I have, it's that Florida State staff is not going to put up with that anymore this year. Evidenced by Shyheim not starting, other highly recruited guys not on the two deep, former walk-ons making the two deep. I think that's a big deal. The guys with the right attitude.
Where's Cam Davis?
Yeah, exactly. Right. And I don't think that's an attitude thing. I think it's just, he's not put it together for whatever reason. But I'm glad of that. Just because you got a certain name or your dad played here or you were highly recruited or you made good plays in the past, none of that matters, right? Give me the guys that are going to give the best effort. And yes, I want to win. I want to go 12-0. I want to make the playoff. All those things exist, right? Do I think that's happening? Maybe not. But I do want to see the effort because that's the very least you can expect, right? Not only are you on scholarship, not only are you getting paid boatloads of money to play football at Florida State, just give a little bit of effort, right? Or a lot of effort, but just give me a little more than you gave last year, and I'll be thrilled. I thought that was a great point by him. And you mentioned Shyheim specifically. I think that's the one that stands out the most. Guy has all the talent in the world, and he's going to have to go out and earn a starting job back. And you can do that by showing up and maybe saving the day against Bama like he did against LSU a few years ago. So looking at the other roster, the 247 talent composite came out today. I knew this would be the case. This isn't surprising to me at all. I thought Bama would be in the top 3, and there they are at number 2 in the country from a talent profile. When you look at Bama, they are an absolute embarrassment of riches. Florida State has a tough road to hoe when it comes to this game. But that's not even a slight to Florida State. I think I would pick Alabama against any other team in the country, save like 2 or 3, 5 at like the very most, right? If they were playing in Athens or if they were playing in the Shoe or if they were playing at Notre Dame or at Austin, maybe I'd pick those teams. That's about it. They could be playing anybody, like they could be playing in Death Valley, in Baton Rouge, and I'd take Bama this weekend. So it's not really a slight to Florida State. This Bama team is really freaking good.
They're loaded. Like, there's no doubt about it. And, you talked about the 247 composite, number 2. And it's literally, less than a decimal point between 1 and 2. So, I mean, they're obviously super talented, but in looking at FSU's depth chart, you have 2 guys that Florida State recruited who are listed to start. Bama has done it the right way, and a lot of that credit still goes to Nick Saban, right? There's no doubt about that. So they've picked and chosen who they wanted. They've lost some battles to Ohio State and Georgia and Texas, but those are the other top 4. So, what do you expect? Florida State came in at number 19 when on the talent composite from 247. And for those of you who don't know, it just basically takes recruiting rankings, transfer rankings, comes up with a number, and it tells you who is the most talented based on evaluations, not just from 247, but from all of the different ranking services. But yeah, with Alabama, it's no surprise. I thought they would have been number 1, honestly, but number 2, I'm not surprised. But again, it's very close, very, very close between them and Ohio State. So, yeah, Florida State does have an uphill battle. And, you think back to last year, and I'm going to have a point on this a little later, but they did lose to Vanderbilt last year. And they're probably, I haven't looked, but I would guess in the 80s or so in the talent composite. So it's not like there's no chance, but you definitely are outmanned heading into this weekend.
Florida State did get a little bit of good news. Certainly not trying to sit here and celebrate an injury, but Alabama down 3 starters in this game. Star running back Jam Miller, defensive tackle Tim Keenan are both ruled out of this game. And then, what's our name here? Maybe I should have looked at it right before I got on here. But another offensive lineman, Roberts. Yeah, Jaden Roberts, a guard for them, also not in. Now, again, Bama is in a position where one 5-star goes down, they replace it with another blue chip really, really quickly. However, anytime you start to cut into that depth and you take 3 starters off of their team, 3 really good starters, like these aren't just, oh, well, this guy went down and they replaced it with somebody that,
Yeah.
3 really good starters. Their workhorse running back, who they were expecting to be over 1,000-yard back, really good running back, led the team outside of Monroe in rushing. Tim Keenan, folks will remember that name, massive defensive tackle who addressed the Thomas Castellanos comments when he said all of that disrespect will be addressed at SEC Media Days. Maybe a little bit thankful that he's not in the game. Certainly not happy that anybody's injured, but Florida State's got their bumps and bruises too. So maybe some of these injuries help Florida State a little bit. Now, again, this doesn't even the playing field. This doesn't even the talent. I mean, you take those 3 off of Alabama's roster, they may move down to 3rd. They may stay in 2nd. So Bama's still absolutely loaded, but some key pieces missing from Alabama. I also think pieces that play to Florida State's strengths. Florida State has to stop the run. I'm not even that worried about stopping the pass because I think Bama is going to try to run the ball first. And if they're successful running the ball, that's when I'm worried about the pass. I'm not really worried about Bama's secondary, though I think it's a top 5 unit in the country. I am not that worried about it because if Florida State can't stop the run, it doesn't matter who you have back there. They're just going to keep stopping the run by dropping 8 into coverage, right? So either way, I think these injuries for Bama do play to the path to a Florida State win. Do they mean Florida State's going to win this game? No, I'm not changing my pick, which we'll get to in a little bit. But I do think if you're looking for little key ways that Florida State has slight advantages or slight things going their way, some of the injuries to Bama starters are probably going to be pretty helpful.
Yeah, and to your point, they definitely want to establish the run. I think Kalen DeBoer would like to be, somewhat pass heavy, but he's adjusting to the SEC. I think he learned a lot last year. I think he's going to be able to adjust even more this year, and he has a huge question mark at quarterback, a super talented, high ceiling quarterback in Simpson, but I'm just not sure that he's going to trust him in Doak. I know it's a 3:30 game. A lot of fans wanted an 8 o'clock game. Me personally, my old man who's not going to the game, I'm very excited that it's 3:30. I would have loved a noon game. But I still think that crowd will be raucous. It's one of those things where, you catch one break here or there, and it could be the difference between one of Alabama's star players, because the 3 players you just mentioned, it's not like they were backups or, contribution guys. They were guys that were heavily relied on heading into the season. And again, to your point, they have another 5-star right behind them all. So there's that. But I do think there's, if you want to be a true total optimist, you could convince yourself that Florida State has enough going in their favor. I do think home field at Doak, especially in a game like this, typically they say Vegas gives 3 points for the home team. I think Florida State's probably worth about 5 points. Now, that does not erase a nearly 14-point spread.
Yeah, I mean, if this game was, and I think that's baked in, right? I think if this game was on a neutral site, Bama would be closer to 17 or more, right? So, yeah, I do think the crowd does make an impact, though, especially for, so you have Ty Simpson here, career pass attempts at 50%. I don't think you put this, not really a rushing threat, but I think he's mobile enough, like he's sneaky athletic enough to where you can't get lost on like a 3rd and 7 or a 3rd and 8.
Correct.
Because he can move quick enough to pick that up and just absolutely break your back. When you get Bama in 3rd and long and you kept him behind the sticks and everybody's covered, right? You're somehow locking up Ryan Williams. He's quick enough. I mean, he's quicker than like Jameis was. And Jameis was a pretty good, awkward, but pretty good runner.
He's locking up Ryan Williams.
Yeah. Well, I'm saying that even if you do, and this guy takes off for 6-7 yards and gets the first down, I mean, just backbreaker type stuff. So you do have to be cognizant of that, but I don't think they try a lot of design quarterback runs. Where I think Florida State could have some success is if they're able to limit the run, which is a big ask. That's a huge if. Bama not having their starting running back, a big deal. If they're able to limit the run, Simpson having to pass more often than not on the road in his first real start against good to above average competition in an environment like Doak Campbell Stadium, in a loud pressure is on you situation, that could bode well for Florida State. It could also bode horribly. They say he's been very good in fall camp. It wasn't even a competition. He has absolutely been the best that Bama has to offer there. And he has some sick weapons that he's throwing to Ryan Williams and others. Ryan Williams gets all the shine, but they've got other guys too. It's not just to put 3 guys on Williams and you're fine. They've got other guys that can certainly beat you. But however, all that said, Florida State limits the run, and Simpson, all the pressure is on him. To me, that's the path to Florida State having a shot in this. I don't see. Is it fair to say this? Outside of something really crazy, like a punt return for a touchdown, or, Thomas Castellanos going for 350 combined yards, or just, really things that we're not predicting. I don't see how Florida State wins this game without winning the turnover battle. And I might even bump that up to say they need to win it by 2. So if you turn it over once, you probably need to have 3 takeaways. If you play a clean game, you probably need to have 2. Now, could have pick 6 or could have punt return or a blocked kicker. Yes, all that stuff could matter. You don't see punt return touchdowns often. You don't see kick return touchdowns often. You don't see blocked kicks run back often, right? One big one happened against Bama, I guess. But outside of a couple of turnovers, I don't realistically see a way that you match Bama toe-to-toe. Like, you've got to force either enough pressure, disguise enough things on the back end with Tony White, and this secondary. You've got to steal a couple of possessions in this game. I don't think you can go toe-to-toe and win this one.
Yeah, and even if you're +2, it to me, it depends where the turnovers happen. If you get an interception on Bama's own 25-yard line, that's huge, right? But if you get it on, Florida State's 35-yard line, well, okay, now you still need to go 65 yards to get a touchdown, and at least 30-plus yards just to get a field goal attempt. So I think you do need to win the turnover battle, but where the turnovers happen matter, and you cannot have a catastrophic turnover. And I hate to bring this up, but something like the Jameis against Oregon, the fumble when he fell back, that got taken back for a touchdown. You have to avoid the catastrophic things to have a chance. And I'm in no way am I saying Florida State has absolutely no chance. I think they do. But where turnovers happen and when they happen and how they happen, I think will play a huge role in it, um, especially regarding to Florida State.
Yeah, Florida State has to come out on the plus side of that. And we talked about limiting Bama's run. I think, and I agree with you on DeBoer wanting to pass the ball. I just think that in this game, he will be a little more run heavy. Weather conditions could impact that. Do you want Simpson out there throwing the ball in the rain, in the slop, which it could very well be? Again, do I think that benefits Florida State? Probably. And then also to take the pressure off of Simpson. If you can establish the run against a Florida State team that could not stop anybody's rushing attack last year, if you can establish, I think back to that Cal game, like why Cal continued to drop back, I'll have no clue in my life, but they did, and so appreciate that for the one P4 win. I think that Bama will try to do that. I think Florida State tries to do the same thing. I think they try to establish a run. Now, I don't think you're going to bully Alabama. And so you're going to have to get creative with quarterback runs, with stuff to the outside, with trying to run misdirections and counters. There's no doubt. You're not just going to run up the middle and bully Alabama, even with Keenan out. No. But I think Florida State tries to do the same thing. I think Florida State very much tries to establish the run, put Castellanos in third and manageable. Bama's trying to get to 3rd and 3. I think Florida State would feel a lot more comfortable if they were in 3rd and 5 situations. You'd love to be in 3rd and 1. You'd love to never get to 3rd down. But I do think that's the game plan for Florida State. Establish the run, do that some with Castellanos, find the hot back. I mean, you talked about Roydell Williams starting the game. Yeah, if he goes for 3 yards on his first 5 carries, I mean, he's going to be done, because they're going to have to find the hot back. And whether that's the true freshman, whether that's Sawchuk, whether that's Jalen Lucas, whether they scrap running backs altogether and just start running the heck out of Castellanos, they're going to have to establish the run. I don't know that I trust Castellanos' arm to beat Bama. I'd love to be proven wrong on that. I'd love for him to go for 350 combined yards, like I said earlier, so that we can say, see, he was right when he said what he said through the offseason. But I don't know that I trust that. I really think Florida State, if they don't rush for 125 plus yards in this game, and that might be really low, it might need to be higher, I don't see how they win. I think you got to go for probably 125 of $150 combined Castellanos and your running backs.
Yeah, and I agree, and I think Gus Malzahn probably has that same mentality. You look at his best teams, especially from his Auburn days. They were run heavy. They didn't throw the ball a ton. He's a guy that wants to establish dominance up front. I don't think Florida State's offensive line is capable of doing that. but I do think Malzahn is creative enough to make some changes or scheme up some looks that might confuse Alabama a little bit. And especially with Tommy having the ability to be a scrambler, like that's a huge deal because you basically eliminate one less defensive player because you have one less person to block when your quarterback can run. I think that's a big deal. So I think he's going to have to get very creative. I would not be surprised if we see, a trick play or two, which typically, good teams don't have to run those. Florida State coming into the season, not a good team based on last year's results. So I think that's going to be interesting. And I do think both Mike and Gus are taking this game personally. Obviously, everybody knows why Gus is, but there's a ton of people, especially Alabama fans, and don't think that Mike has not seen these comments talking about, wow, we dodged a bullet by not getting Mike Norvell. Thank goodness we got Kalen DeBoer, even though they were not very happy with him last year. Um, don't think he hasn't seen those comments from Alabama fans or heard it from the different sports media personalities. I think Mike and Malzahn, this game is personal, and I think they're going to come in ready to compete. I don't know if it'll be enough, but they will be ready.
We'll get to a prediction here in a little bit, but I could see this being a lot lower scoring in the first half. I don't really know what my thoughts are for the whole game. I mean, I have a score and I'll give it here in a few minutes, but I could see this being lower scoring in the first half because I think both teams really try to establish the run. I don't know that a bunch of chances are taken on Bama's side. And part of me even thinks that the some of the trick plays or some of the misdirection stuff, I almost think Florida State would potentially try and save that stuff too. You run
Depending on how the game goes, yeah.
Yeah, you run a trick play on the first drive and you go up 7-0. Like, say it works out perfectly. Who cares? Like 7-0 in this game. I don't want to say it doesn't matter, but like, does it matter? 56 minutes is plenty of time to overcome a 7-point drive. But you go to the half up 3 and you run one to open the second half. That's different, right? So you get down 14 and you're kind of desperate. Obviously, that's when Bama would be looking for a trick play, but the flow of the game will matter. But I could see this being kind of low scoring. And I think Florida State will be in this game at the half. Like I'm not even like drinking too much Kool-Aid or trying to be a homer or anything like that. I think Florida State will be in this game at the half. Like it would surprise me if Bama's up by like more than 10, right? When we get to halftime. Now, could Bama come out and be up 21-3 at the half? Absolutely. They're so talented. They could do that to just about any team in the country. But I do think Florida State has a really good chance to keep this competitive through the first half. And then the adjustments that really all 4 coordinators make at that point, right? White, Malzahn, and then Bama's too. That will be what ends up determining this game. Obviously, I have a little more confidence in Bama's talent, but I do think Florida State sticks around. I think it's a low-scoring first half. Wouldn't shock me at all if it's something like 17-10 or, 13-6 or just something really low-scoring where Florida State's in it, maybe even has a lead. I could see that. That's kind of the scenario that's playing out in my mind.
It wouldn't surprise me, and this is such a loser mentality. But with you saying that, it's almost like, give me a reason to be disappointed in the last 5 minutes of the game, right?
Yeah.
Like obviously, as a Florida State fan, I want to win the game, but if we go to the fourth quarter down, 24 points, and I'm sitting on the couch, my wife is just like smirking at me because she knows I'm having a miserable day. Give me a reason to legitimately be disappointed or heartbroken. If we lose the game by 24 points, 30 points, I'm not going to be heartbroken. It's whatever. That's kind of, I wouldn't say expected because the spread's only 13 points, but it wouldn't be shocking. But if, I'm thinking back to that Notre Dame game in 2021 where, we went in with very low expectations, and then out of nowhere we get to overtime, and then Notre Dame wins it on a kick at the last second. And that was heartbreaking. Had Notre Dame beat us 45-17, I wouldn't have cared. I'd be like, okay, well, we're still clearly in rebuilding mode and probably getting a new coach soon. But, that's kind of where my head is going. But yeah, I do think Florida State keeps it close. I think they feed off the energy. The crowd is going to be absolutely electric. Again, I know it's not a night game, but that does not matter. This crowd is going to be nuts. I think that stadium kickoff is probably 3:37 if I had to guess. I think that stadium will be 90% full by 2:30. Big games, every big game I go to, I get there very early, and it's insane to see the crowd, the energy. I think about that Oklahoma game that we got in 2011. We got into the stadium around 6 p.m., like right when the gates opened, and by 6:30 it was completely full, and the energy was just insane. Florida State fans do not get enough credit, in my opinion, for the energy they bring to these big games. Yeah, of course, Kent State, it's not going to be electric, but Bama coming in, especially with 2017 on our mind and different things, I think this crowd will be a force. And the only way that makes a huge difference is if Florida State comes out strong. Because
Yeah,
if Bama comes out and goes up, 14-3 in the first quarter, the crowd is deflated, and that could be a problem for Florida State.
Yeah, I went to last year. You think about great crowds and just enjoying college football. Last year I went to that Florida Miami game, and pregame that place was wild. That place was an absolute zoo. Miami goes down and scores on the first possession. Florida actually gets a turnover, and the place gets really loud again. But Miami scores on the next possession, and it's like I don't know if it was 21-0 or 21-3 or something. I think it was 21-3. I think they had settled for a field goal after Cam's only interception in that game. And the crowd at the Swamp, like I've been to probably 8 or 10 games there, and it's always a good time. Even the year we beat them 27-2. Great environment. It was that game actually 2015 was the largest crowd they've ever sold. The Swamp, like you think, I know we hate them and stuff. I get it. But like the Swamp was so boring. And I regretted going to that game because the crowd showed up and did their part. And I expect Florida State fans to do the same thing. But if the team doesn't capitalize on that, if the team doesn't give them a reason to continue to stay in the game, then that crowd will go to waste. All the renovations, all the excitement, all the newness, all the things that we're excited about with it, the team has to capitalize on it. You're spot on there, right? Like I expect the crowd to be juiced, but man, you go down, you give up 2 touchdowns to start the game and you're down 14-0. I tell you, that crowd will start looking at their watches and thinking, man, what other games are on right now?
You're going to start hearing some boos if that happens.
Yeah, it won't be pretty.
It will get ugly, and it will be very uncomfortable for Mike Norvell, because I know we still owe him a ton of money if things don't work out, and I think we both truly hope things do work out with him because it's just easier that way. But if the offense goes and has 2 straight 3-and-outs, and then Bama goes up and down the field and scores, you're going to get boos when that offense runs on the field. And we saw it at Notre Dame, the game I just referenced, or not at Notre Dame, but when Notre Dame came here, when Jordan Travis got booed. And I'm hoping, we have the same turnaround if something like that does happen that Jordan Travis had, who ended up being easily one of the top 10 quarterbacks in Florida State history.
Can Castellanos pull off a Diego Pavia here? Is that too easy of a comparison to make?
I just, I was listening to some different things and reading some different things, and, they went back to, it was actually Josh Pate on 247. He kind of referenced it. So I want to give credit and say this wasn't my initial thought. I do remember watching the game, but yeah, like I definitely think he could. He almost did it against a very elite Florida State team in 2023, right? And Boston College was not good that year, right? They were not. Florida State went 13-0, and he almost did just enough to pull off the upset against Florida State. I think he's capable of doing it. Am I predicting it? No, but I definitely think he's capable.
It would be fitting. You think about all the storylines, not only Mike being, courted for that job, not only 2017. This is the team that kept you out of the playoff, right? This is the conference that kept you out of the playoff. And, you add in the Castellanos comments, you add in the last year of how our season went, man. There's a lot of storylines that could be written. And, look, I've never wanted to be a beat writer, and I've never wanted to be a columnist. But I would like to come up with a column if Florida State was able to pull this off. That would be a fun write, right? There's a lot of storylines that you could go with. So, all right, let's do this. Let me give a quick shout out to the tailgate. For anybody that's not already gotten their tickets, go ahead and do that. FSUBama.eventbrite.com. Come on out to the tailgate and hang out with us. I know that says 5. It's actually going to be in lot 14, right next to Lot 5. It's the IM Fields right there by Madso and everything. You'll see the big black Double Fries No Slaw tent. It'll be one of the biggest tents in the field just because I bought an obnoxiously large tent so that we could all hide from the rain, which I saw Daniel mention underneath. Looks like it's going to be pretty terrible. So hopefully weather cooperates somewhat, but if not, we will have a pretty nice tent for you to stand under. Richie, we started this a couple of years ago. Listen, you've always done this, but I'm going to do it at least for this first one. Then from now on, I'll just send them to you. But our pick six, we've got a new partner, which we'll announce next week in Sleeper. I'll tell you more about them next week, but you can go to the Sleeper app now. I don't have any code or anything for you. That'll all come next week. But you go to the Sleeper app now. They've got some really good lines here that I like in this. And we really don't give gambling advice. We don't give betting advice. We don't give fantasy advice, things like this. Some of these lines you need to go look at because I love Florida State in some of them, or just they're more or less, right? So Roydell over and under touchdown, Tommy's passing yardage over under, whatever, right? There's a bunch of them. We're going to do our pick six now. You should go check some of these out on Sleeper because I think you can certainly find some value in some of these lines. Richie, let's start out with Roydell Williams. Oh, Harlan, you said you were keeping a notepad of our picks this year. I don't know if you can keep these or not. We never track them. I would love if we did this year, but I'm glad we didn't track them last year now that I'm saying that out loud and thinking about it. But more or less is what you're supposed to say because you don't want to get in trouble. More or less, Roydell Williams, half a touchdown. Does he score?
I'm going to say yes, because I think if Florida State gets down near the goal line early, with him being an Alabama transfer, I do think Norvell will, right or wrong, take that into consideration. So I'll say he gets a touchdown.
I'm going to go less. I'm going to say he doesn't. I'm not a Roydell doubter. I'm not trying to be a hater. I don't love this one either way because, man, football's just so weird. But I'm going to go less on Roydell. I'm going to trust that Sawchuck or somebody else gets one. Castellanos. Okay, so here's one I love. I don't know how this is on here. I don't know how this is an actual option. Tommy Castellanos, passing touchdowns, more or less than 0.5.
More.
Yeah, I mean, one touchdown. I mean, yeah, is there a way that Tommy doesn't pass for any touchdowns in this game? Absolutely. I like the more on this, especially if they go down and Bama scores what people think they're going to score. Florida State will have to pass the ball. Give me the more on this, and it's not even close. Like if you're, I'm not telling you to go waste your money on gambling or betting or anything else like that. But man, more on 0.5 here seems so obvious.
You could be the worst quarterback on one of the worst teams in the country playing Alabama, and then still find a way to get one touchdown.
Right. I agree. Yeah. Tommy's passing yards are interesting. 168.5.
Less.
So I'm going to go more on this one. I don't love it, but I could see a scenario where Florida State is down and has to pass the ball quite a bit in the fourth quarter. So that's why I like the more there. But if they go more, we might not win the game. If they go less, that's probably a good sign for Florida State. So we disagree on that one. Squirrel White, 25.5 receiving yards.
So let me see here. He is starting. I'm going to say more. That's one catch.
I like more on this too. At worst, it's 2 or 3 catches, right? If I think he gets targeted 5 times, makes 3 catches, I would imagine 25.5 yards. He had 110 yards the last time he played Bama in 2023, I guess that would have been. So I don't think he necessarily goes for that, but I do like the over of 25.5. If he goes for 110, I'll take Florida State to win the game. Deuce Robinson, a little bit higher, 38.5.
I'll say less on this one. I just think, being brand new at Florida State, he's bounced around from USC back to Tallahassee. Again, that could be simply one reception, but I'm going to say less on this one.
I'll go less here too. I think they focus most of their attention here. I don't know they necessarily need a double team with how good their secondary is, but I think Squirrel will get, I have a little more confidence that Squirrel, not that he's a better route runner, but if Bama's attention is more on Deuce, I could see Squirrel getting in. Plus, it's 13 yards less.
And Squirrel's an absolute speedster.
Yeah.
He can get behind the secondary quickly.
Yeah, if he breaks one tackle, the 25 yards is right there on one catch. Gavin Sawchuck, half a touchdown.
So this is where we're going to disagree. I'm going to stick with my Roydell Williams pick and say he gets in, but not Sawchuk.
I'll go. I actually like the under on this too, or the less, just because if you're doing both of them, I'll go. I'll go Sawchuk more, just because I took Roydell less, but I don't feel great about either one of those. Gavin Blackwell. So these last two I absolutely love, and they're not going to go Florida State's way, but I'll tell you why I like them here in just a second. Gavin Blackwell, who is not listed as a starter, is at half a touchdown. I love the less on this. And I'm not a Blackwell hater. That's not my point. I don't think he gets enough targets. Like, could he get in? But I mean, he's probably your fourth or fifth best receiver, plus the tight end options, plus the running back options out of the backfield, plus Castellanos' legs. I don't want to say it would shock me, but it would surprise me if Gavin Blackwell even got a target in the end zone, let alone a touchdown. I just think there's too much. They don't want to pass the ball that much. And so Gavin Blackwell, I don't know why he's listed on this thing, but give me the under. He'll score the first touchdown just because I said this, which whatever it takes to win, I don't care. But I love the Blackwell under a touchdown.
I'll take the less. And if this was a sports book, I feel like what would the odds be? Like plus 2,000 that he scores a touchdown? Like
maybe 1,200 or something at best. Yeah, that would be a really high one. That, to me, that's free money right there. Good value. And then I'm kind of the same one on this. I love Landon Thomas. I'm not a Landon Thomas denier, but he spent most of fall banged up. He's listed as as a starter right on the depth chart, so he could get targets. I just think there's a lot of tight end targets too that you're looking at with him, Amari Williams. Actually, the starter is listed as Randy Pittman. I don't know that Landon, again, kind of like Blackwell, there's so much ball to go around. I like the less on this too. I think Castellanos probably finishes with 1 or 2 touchdowns passing max. I don't know that Landon Thomas coming off of an injury is somebody that I would put money on the more. I like the under on both of these, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm going to take less as well. Like you said, Randy Pittman Jr. is listed as the starter. And then it's for second string, it's Amari Williams or Landon Thomas. That tells me I'd be shocked if he even played in the game. So I think that's free money. Take the less on it.
I think he plays, but yeah, I don't think he gets enough targets to. I'd love to be again. I hope all these guys go more because I want to win the game, right? Give me everybody's more in actuality. But if you're going to place a bet, if you're going to wager a little money, those are some that I really, really love. I love the Tommy more than half. I love the Blackwell and Thomas under half. So do with that what you will. If you want to go place some wagers over on the Sleeper app, I don't want to say they're giving away money, but it seems a lot to me like they're giving away money. Quickly, and we can just leave it on this scene, Harlan, you don't have to flip it over, but if you are going into town, make sure you show some love to Garnet and Gold. You can tell them you heard about them on the Double Fries No Slaw podcast. Tell them No Slaw, see if they give you the online coupon or discount while you're in store as well. They got all the Columbia stuff, all the Nike stuff. Go check out Garnet and Gold while you're in town. You might need a poncho from there. See if you can get a discount on a poncho for the game. All right, Richie, some big games across the country. We'll do this, then we'll predict the FSU game. We'll get out of here. Let's start on Friday night. Auburn Baylor. It's a 2.5 point spread at Auburn. I'll tell you the spreads too.
Where's this one at?
In Waco.
Baylor.
Yeah, I like Baylor to win outright, not just cover the spread. Suck it, Hugh Freeze. Also on Friday night, Colorado's a 4.5 point underdog to Georgia Tech.
This is in Atlanta, or you're
Colorado?
Gonna have to tell me where these games are.
In Boulder, sorry.
In Boulder. I'll still take Georgia Tech. I think I just like Georgia Tech's coaching better.
Yeah, I'm not super down on Colorado. I do think they take a step backward, and I like Haynes King fully healthy. So give me Georgia Tech to cover the 4.5 or 4, wherever you end up looking. You can get it for different stuff. Saturday at noon, big noon kickoff. Game day going to be there, of course. Corso's last game. Shout out Corso. Ohio State, a slight favorite at home, 1.5. I think Ohio State wins and thus covers the 1.5. I'm not picking them by 1 point.
I hate to keep agreeing, but the venue was the entire deciding factor for me on this game. If it was in Austin, I'm taking Texas. But being in Columbus, even for noon, which is 11 a.m. their time, that, like we just talked about, that will be a raucous crowd. I think Ohio State wins, but I think it will be a thrilling game and a great way to start the unofficial, the official start of college football season. Week 0 we had that. It was great. It was fun. But this is when college football starts, and holy crap, what a game to start the season. But I'm taking Ohio State.
Clemson is a 3.5 or 4-point favorite at home against LSU. Until I see LSU win a opener, I'll take the Tigers from Clemson, not Baton Rouge. Sorry. So yeah, give me Clemson -4.
I'd take Clemson up to -6.5 on this one.
Yeah. I also have a little more faith in Klebnik. Let's go Miami Notre Dame. This is down in Miami. Miami Notre Dame spread. I don't know what it is. I'm having to Google it like literally as we're talking right now. But Miami is a dog by 2.5 points. I hate to do this on an FSU show, but give me Miami with the points. I don't know if they went outright. I'd lean them just for Carson Beck over CJ Carr. I think Freeman's a much better coach than Mario, but I'll take the home team that's a slight dog. So Miami +2.5.
Just from a history standpoint, and this should never guide you when you're making decisions on betting, but I'm going to let it do it for me right now. The last time Notre Dame went down there, that's when, their coach was talking about, one of their coaches was talking about, beating the F out of Miami and everything, and then Miami just destroyed them. I think history repeats itself, and Miami wins the game outright.
Yeah, I'm leaning Miami too, hoping that feeling goes away because I may need to pick me up on Sunday night. And then FSU, a 13.5-point dog to Alabama at home in Doak Campbell Stadium at 3:30, probably 3:37, like Richie said. I'll buy that kickoff time. Harlan, you sticking with your score from earlier? I'll tell the people yours, and then I'll let Richie go, and I'll finish this off. Harlan had Bama winning a close one, 45-10. So, Richie, what you got?
So I agree with you that it will be a very close first half. But in a lot of these games, depth often wins out unless you get some extra bounces that go your way. I just don't think Florida State has the roster to compete with Alabama. I do think the home crowd makes a big difference. But at the end of the day, I think Florida State covers the spread just barely, and I'll say 30-17.
I like your score. Yeah. So I was on a show on Monday and they asked for a score prediction. And I was like, I really don't think about that until Wednesday night. I try and put score predictions out of my mind, but I did give one and I'm just sticking with what I had then. I do think Florida State keeps this close. I think they keep it very respectable. Bama's never really able to pull away, but they do win convincingly enough. 30-21 would be my final score. I think Florida State bows up a couple of times in the red zone. They keep it close for a little while. Bama gets a touchdown or field goal late to kind of put it out of reach. Up by 9, you're kind of out of luck, and the clock runs out on the Seminoles. Bama goes to 1-0. Florida State, I don't want to play the moral victory game, but I guess that's what I'm about to do right now. If they play with effort and they just get beat because the other team is better, I want to win every game, right, Richie? But if you just lose because the other team's better, and it's not because you shot yourself in the foot a million times, it's not because you had lack of effort or anything like that, and sometimes you tip your cap to the better team. I hope I'm wrong. I hope you're wrong. I certainly hope Harlan's wrong. But at times, man, Florida State doesn't have the roster Bama does, and I think the crowd will help a lot in the first half. I don't know that it's enough. And man, I'd love to old takes expose myself if that happens after this one. So that is our preview. Richie, you got any shout outs before we get out of here?
Yeah, shout out my wife. We're going to be going at it Saturday, and then we'll be at church Sunday to repent for whatever happened.
Talking about the game, right? Yeah. That's a wild phrase to be saying that your wife and you are going to be going at it. But, God, it's crazy. Yeah, shout out Corso. He should have been in Tallahassee this week.
Yes.
But, hopefully Florida State will do something good for him.
Shout out CBS for actually showing up in Tallahassee.
Hey, my man, Brian McFadden will be there. That's all that really matters. But yeah, big shout out to Corso. Hopefully he picks us one last time against Bama. Maybe that'll be the good luck charm we need. So, hey, make sure you're subscribed. We'll do this every Wednesday night live at 7 p.m. unless something crazy happens. We'll talk about this game with you guys on Sunday. Hopefully we can eat a lot of crow. But one way or another, we'll be here to talk about it. So thank you guys for tuning in. TJ Pittenger, Richie Barnes, Harlan Harris, helping us out behind the scenes. We will talk to you guys soon. Go Noles.
Go Noles.